Hello everyone, hope you all are doing great. Welcome back to Human Cyber. Today we will be covering about a recently observed ransomware, which is the CATB ransomware. And what makes it special is the is it anti-analysis techniques that the ransomware is used. And we will be going through one of the article written by the Fortinet, and we will try to cover all the concepts covered in this blog. Thank you. So here is the blog, which is from the Fortinet, and this is all about the CATB ransomware. And let's try and dig into it. So CATB ransomware is like recently observed, like the samples are dating back to the December 2022, which is like fairly new. And we will the infection vector is still unknown, but mostly the ransomware attacks are coming from the phishing and phishing. So most of the ransomware attacks are coming from the phishing. And what exactly phishing is like, it is coming from as an attachment in an email. Think you are thinking that it is a legitimate on downloading the sample, and then it is trying to download ransomware or something else. But most often in the cyber world, like the ransomware is not the first stage, but the last stage. Like they like ransomware will be deployed in a system at the end. So first there will be some kind of payload that is being dropped, and then there will be some downloader which further will download the ransomware. So ransomware is mostly not the first stage of your attack. Okay. So how this CATB ransomware is dropping is like it is dropping one DLL file. Okay. So DLL file, as you can know, like DLL file will be um, like if an executable is running, so it will be loading multiple DLL files, right? So some will be from the system 32, which is like the legit OS DLLs that are supposed to require to when a exe is running, and other will be some DLL which are required only by the specific sample. So these are DLLs should be written by the author, and so these are the kind of DLLs that will be loaded by the executables. And mostly DLLs are written down to so that the size of the executable reduces. Okay, so DLLs you can basically treat it as when you are writing a program, right? So you are writing a program and there will be some repetitive tasks that are to be done. Okay, so like let's suppose you are trying to print something and you need that print function every time. So instead of writing the print function every time, what you will do is like you will have a function written, right? So have a function written with a print code. So whenever you need that, you just simply like call in the function here. So that is basically what the daily list DLLs are tried to be done here. So and in a Windows, the DLL will not be automatically executed, right? So you will need a application like run dll32.exe for running that this one. So yes, and this dropper is basically it is written that it is dropped by the UPX sample. UPX is a kind of a packing. Let me write it here. So it is used in packing. And what exactly happens in packing is like UPS is like freely available. Okay, so if you try right there in the internet what is UPX packing malware, so you will get the packing. It is freely available. You can just I think you can just decompile it with a UPX minus D and the file name. It will try to give you the original unpacked sample. So most often packing is done to reduce the size and to evade the defenses. Okay, so what makes the CATB ransomware special is like we already discussed it, like the use of the anti-analysis techniques. So the anti-analysis techniques here, as you can see here in the assembly code, it checks for the number of processor and it should be two numbers. Okay, so if you are trying to like run it in the VM, and if the processor in the VM is less than two, that is you're like only given one processor just to like execute the malware sample. So in that case, it will this check will be failed and the malware will not be executed in the system. So this is one of the like checking which they are doing, that it must be at least two to continue. And in additional, what it is trying to see is like the RAM, the RAM of the system. Like suppose VM you are doing, right? So you can run any sample for with one GB or sandboxes are there, right? So which will be like very much a list which will be like least having the properties of this, like processor will be 1 or 1 GB RAM, just to execute the malware and get the properties. But in this case, the sandbox detection will be failed. The sandbox will be failing to execute this malware if they are not having these properties. So if your sandbox is having less than 2 GB RAM, again it will not be working in your sample. So the next involves the hard disk. So it will try to, the hard disk properties it is trying to gather with this API. Tries to determine the passing value of 70,000 and in the hexadecimal, which correspond to which is the control code for. So this is the control code. So this is the API that it is trying to this is provided to me obtain a physical disk. So it is trying to obtain the information of the physical disk. For example, it is written here. If you can see here. Let me just grab another color so that you can just understand. Yeah, this is fine. So here it is like tracks and cylinders, sectors and cylinders, right? Track, sector, cylinder. So these are basically some of the like properties which the malware is trying to grab, and this is what is makes it special. And so yeah, and then if all the executions happen, like if all the checks are passed, okay, like so this is one tick, tick, tick. So there are basically 3 to 4 checks, and when all of them passes, so there will be like some kind of if else statement or something like that, you can say. So one passes, okay, go ahead. One another passes, go ahead. One another passes, go ahead. When all the 3 checks are meeting, and then like I'm just explaining you trying to cook the code how it will be written. Like first check this, check this, check this, and then and drop the payload. So the what is the payload here is the DLL. The OCI.dll file will be present here. And if you the notice the path, which is very interesting here, is like the C drive Windows System 32 OCI.dll. This path itself requires admin privilege to uh, drop the malware samples. So most often in the real world, like you will see very less times the malware authors are trying to drop any file in this particular system32 folder. Mostly it will be in the temp or amp data roaming program data, but not definitely not this one, system32. So this is very rare occasion where in this case we are observing that it is getting dropped in the OCI.dll is getting dropped in the system32. So coming back, it is actually so DLL will not be executed automatically, right? You need a run DLL function to call it, or you need to load it inside a payload, like which is like a .exe file. You need to load the DLL. So there will be one DLL, right? So you need to ask it like. So in this particular case, we are seeing that it is running inside the MSTDDC, so which is the Microsoft Distributed Transaction Coordinator. MSTDC service is used to facilitate the process. So yeah, so MSTDC will load this table, because why it is loading is because only of the path. Okay, so MSTDC while it is working, so let's suppose this is the MSTDC file executable which is working. Okay, so it requires system32 DLs to be loaded. So what it is doing, it is going to the system32 folder and it is trying to load all the bind DLs. So at that time of loading the DLs, this OCI.dll, which is the evil one, it gets loaded here in this MSTDC, and this is how this ransomware will be executed. And what exactly it does is like it alters the username to the service to the local system and then starts the MSTDC. Okay, and so what happens is like it will MSTDC will be running. Okay, and when the checks are failed, so it will try to kill the process MSTDC, and it will try to kill that. So kill event, this is the event, kill event, and it will try to kill the process. So this is how. So once the payload is execute, like let's suppose all the checks are made and the payload is running successfully, what will happen is like it will be the CATB ransomware payload execution will be happening. So what is special in this ransomware is like it will not be only encrypting your C drive, but all the drives up to I drive. So it is getting checked by I, A, G, F, E, D, and you can see that most of the things are getting like I, and most of the things are getting like I, H, G, F, E, D. Basically, all the drives from C to I, you can tell that it is trying to encrypt the file samples. And what more interesting in one of this behavior of this ransomware is like it is whenever you see a ransomware infected machine, so there will be like the desktop wallpaper will be changed, right? So there will be ransom note inside the desktop. No, instead what this particular thing is doing is like it is encrypting all the files, and then you know what there is a concept known as overlay. So whenever you are trying to end a sample, instead like after when a sample is like all the codes are finished by the author, uh, suppose there is one address, right? The code is ending, and then there is the overlay means it is getting overwritten by some other code. So this kind of concept is being used here. So once the code is finished like of a file, it is trying like above that code the ransomware note you will see. So this is a bit technical which I'm trying to explain, but this is the concept behind it. But yeah, this is what is happening. Like let's suppose there is one file, okay? So you have just name your name is .txt file something, and inside that you have only written my name is XYZ. So this line above of this line there will be the ransom note, and then at the bottom you will see my name is XYZ. So what is that? It is basically appending the ransom note here inside above the your legitimate file. So this is how the legitimate file looks like, sorry, the ransom note looks like. And that's pretty much it. It is like very much expensive, like 50 Bitcoin and all those things are so there is some like they have written, so obviously this is Fortinet block, so they have tried to like written like what exactly the Fortinet is trying to protect, and these are the IOCs which you will get there. So what exactly to not to pay ransom, like if you are attacked with a ransomware, so you can contact the FBI or some, if you have any insurance for the cyber protection, you can ask them. And also what you can do is like you can reach to your incident response team or maybe some other third party incident response team and try to dig in what exactly happened and how exactly happened, so that like paying the ransom, see, paying the ransomware is not the end goal, see, because one time you pay and you don't know what was the initial access, so again the threat actor might come back again, right? So they are for the illegal purposes, and they are meant to take money from you. So if you're paying the ransom doesn't guarantee that they can't come next time. So if you are not patching the system or not, that particular initial vector is not known of how the ransomware reached into your network, until and unless you are not safe, okay? So paying the ransomware is not the goal you should have. Instead you should have the goal like finding the initial vector of how it can and improve the security posture of your network. Like if the ransomware is coming up, it is not a good habit, right? So it is not a good sign that your security posture is somehow like weak. And involve more and more of phishing simulations with your employees and everyone in the corporate network. So most often it is observed that the ransomware, the first stage is the phishing, which I have already discussed. So, yes, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys have learned something, and please consider subscribe and give a like to this video and try to write a comment if this has video has helped you and something more you want to see this like often. And thank you, keep sharing and keep supporting this channel. This is very new and we will require your support to make more and more concepts like this. Thank you.